The National Institutes of Health has a programmatic mandate called DSA, Detect, Surveil, Assess. It has been prominently mentioned in reports concerning National Institutes of Health activities in other parts of the world, specifically Liberia, Nigeria, connected to, among other things, efforts to apply the DSA methodology regarding maternal health care, as well as in consideration of Ebola and HIV response efforts. Reports I have found in the last 3 years have gone all the way back to at least the early 2000s through 2010. There's also very important matter concerning the acronym DSA these days that also has to deal with industrial inspection. But it's one of those things that, depending on your context, might be better referenced. And what I just heard tonight on the television, Antifa had a predecessor organization in the Austin area. It's identified as Democratic Socialist. And as a matter of fact, there's a chapter of the Democratic Socialist of America right here in the Permian Basin in the state of Texas. The Democratic Socialist of America was formed by the merger of two organizations. One was called the New America Movement, NAM, and the other one was called Students for a Democratic Society. It came out of the Students for Labor Industrial Democracy during the 60s. This effort to take people with a more historical, materialist, economic focus and find a way to merge it with the consideration of women's rights that were part of other trends that developed concurrent to the civil rights movement. That's how I came to find out about it. And the NPC was the National Political Committee of the Democratic Socialist of America. But that was before 9/11. That was before September 1st of 2011. I just looked it up online. SDS is apparently now considered an acronym appropriate for association with safety data sheets. As a matter of fact, I just found an online repository catalog for safety data sheets. You put in the name of the company or the product. You can just find whatever safety data sheet you want. I'm looking at this book. I checked it out the other day about a former staff sergeant who was stationed for a time at Guantanamo Bay in 2006. This is what he says. I'm going to read directly, page 134. Oh, yeah, let's go back. We're going to go to 132. By the fall of 2008, the Seton Hall Center had produced a half dozen more reports. The paper that interested me most was released on August 21st, 2006, entitled June 10th Suicides at Guantanamo, Government Words and Deeds Compared. The report contained nothing that questioned the suicides themselves, but it pointed out broader contradictions of logic, as well as lies made by Pentagon spokesmen, including Admiral Harris. After the deaths, Pentagon spokesman had told the media, as well as members of Congress, that none of the men who died had lawyers. The implication was that the men who died were among a group of die-hard resistors who refused to participate in the commission's process. But the Seton Hall researchers, working under Denbo's direction, found numerous government reports and federal court filings that contradicted this. Let me just stop here. That after they got rid of the one person who worked in what would have been the internal affairs role for the sheriff, the constable, they were replaced by two people who had named references that sounded French or rather Cajun, right? Very similar. As a matter of fact, it's only two letters off from the name mentioned here, right? Not only did the detainees accept legal representation, but also their lawyers had registered with the government numerous complaints that the military had, in fact, denied them access. The Seton Hall report flatly contradicted Admiral Harris's statements that at the time of their deaths, the three men were dedicated jihadists and violent terrorists. Authorities at Gitmo had never categorized them as such, and one of them was scheduled to be released at the time of his death. The paper also revealed more about the backgrounds of the men who died. Ali Abdullah Ahmed was a Yemeni, 26 years old when he died, having spent 4 years in a captivity. Mani al-Utaibi, 25 at the time of his death, and Yasser al-Zahrani, 22, were both Saudis. That is a 2 and 1, right? What happens with you got the 2 and the 1? With the one from Yemen? Well, he can't go back to Yemen. Where's he go? Did he not die but multiply by a factor of 10? Is that like a reverse 1 for 10 split stock that you then transfer after the conversion? Al-Zahrani was 16 or 17, depending on conflicting dates of birth. Are you sure he wasn't 15 and a half and just signed up for the learner's permit for his driver's license? When he was captured by Afghan bounty hunters, you mean people that are bidding on contracts with the state and are trying to make sure that they can take that certificate number that comes with the training program for driver's ed and flip it after 6 months once you actually get the contract number on your actual driver's license? And by that time, well, that certificate's off the record unless you get your guy in at the top spot at NDI. I'm sorry, what's NDI? Let's keep reading. I'm sorry, I got off focus here. Turned over to U.S. forces for a cash payment of an unspecified sum. You mean the reason why now laws connected to processes regarding contract bidding are confidential? And not only that, but the results of lawsuits concerning political subdivisions wherein these contracts would be awarded are also confidential. Just weeks after the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan began in late 2001, al-Zahrani had fled his home in Saudi Arabia in July or August 2001 to join the Taliban. You mean around the time when young people are leaving to go to college, right? No, that wouldn't make any sense. After his transfer to American forces in late 2001, you mean after 9/11, right? You mean after there had already been that report on recruitment into the intelligence community that even members of the intelligence community said that they felt uncomfortable with and justified having a closed door session after a public hearing that twice had to acknowledge that what had been put forward by the Clinton administration was so questionable that even seasoned veterans of the intelligence community did not think it was appropriate to move forward on it. After his transfer to American forces in late 2001, he openly admitted his allegiance to the Taliban, but he said he was unable to join the frontline fighters. Frontline fighters? Or do you mean people that want to have their own center so that then they can do special things in preparation for, frontline providers, like first responders? Like, yeah, it's so dense, so dense. Given his short time in Afghanistan and young age, his claims seemed credible. The authorities at Gitmo never obtained evidence that he had fought U.S. troops or even put up a fight when the Afghans captured him. Al-Utaibi, the other Saudi, had been captured in Pakistan with 3 other men whom Pakistani authorities turned over to the United States on suspicion that they had been to a terrorist training camp. And it just so happens this is around the time when what? What was flipping? How many branches did Citigroup have in Pakistan at this time? Did they have four and maybe one got closed down? Or did they only keep three? But authorities at Gitmo found only evidence that one of the four might have been to a terrorist camp and released two of them. Al Taibi had also been cleared and was on a list awaiting release, which was slated to take place a month before his death. U.S. government spokesman then stated that Al Utaibi had confessed to belonging to a terrorist organization, but as Denbo's Seton Hall report pointed out, the group he was affiliated with was a Muslim charity, Jama'at al-Tablighi, a politically neutral organization that sought to preach to other Muslims the importance of enjoining good and rejecting evil. While many Muslim charities rightly fell under suspicion after the 9/11 attacks as fostering terrorist aims, the one Al Utaibi claimed to work with did not have such nefarious ties, which is probably why he had been cleared for release. No, 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 no. Because just like the other deal got set up years before, so too did this one. Because it was based on charity that all those other Muslim terrorists got blacklisted in 1996. The great thing about that we don't really take into consideration these days, unless you do a little bit of research, is that the predecessor of the 1996 Anti-Terrorist and Effective Death Penalty Act were two bills. Now, the one that got put into law, who proposed that one? But that's not the point, because that one was just a flip on the conversion by the guy who originally proposed it. See, the guy who originally proposed the anti-terrorist bill was a Jew. And the guy who got the bill passed is now supposedly the fucking president. And I'm sorry, how many years ago was that? 1, 2, 3. In less than 3 fucking months, it'll be 25 years exactly. But we're not done yet. We've only gotten through 2 suiciders at Gitmo. Of the 3 detainees, the U.S. government claimed Ahmed, the Yemeni, was the most dangerous. He had been arrested by Pakistani authorities in a 2002 raid they'd launched on a college guest house. You mean like the Women's Center? You mean like a super secret, highly elite, bourgeois women's terrorist recruitment organization that, by the way, has as its primary political agenda normalization of illegal coinage? So when you take the Students for Democratic Society and you flip them to safety data sheets, which ones are for fucking coinage? You know what that is, assholes? The Crouse standard. Yeah. Oh, no. Really? Let's keep reading. After his death, U.S. authorities described Ahmed to the media as a mid to high level Al Qaeda operative and stated that throughout his entire 4 years at Gitmo, he had been non compliant and hostile. The problem was, as the Seton Hall paper revealed, that during Ahmed's captivity, the government never presented any evidence to substantiate its claims that he had any Al Qaeda ties whatsoever, let alone that he might have been a senior or high-level operative. In fact, in 2008, government sources admitted to the Washington Post that there is no credible information to suggest Ahmed received terrorist-related training or is a member of the Al Qaeda network. Denbo's researchers pointed out that suspected mid or high-level Al Qaeda members were never kept in Alpha Block or in camps 1 or 2/3. Right? 2/3. Like what you need to do what with a veto? Yeah. Oh my. Where Ahmed had been held, if Ahmed was an Al Qaeda operative, he would have been kept in Camp 5 or in the unacknowledged facility. ... A lot has been revealed. Colleen, charity, Crouse. It's what you did with my mother, too. I saw it when I went to get my social security card in Houston. Texas already fucking knew. Let me ask you, did they tell you you had to put a noose around your own fucking neck and jack off as part of the illegal coinage scam to keep your fucking job? Or they already stuffed that rag so far down your fucking throat you choked on it and have been busy trying to get your workers' comp ever fucking since? Yeah, your little Halloween game is way past fucking over.